Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. The hair is in full force today. The beard is relatively tame. Yeah, I think so. Oh, it has felt like it has been a long time. I feel a bit confused. Oh, it's snowing outside. Nice. I think the last episode I did was Wednesday. And so then I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. 4 days off for the first time. This is the 78th episode. So I don't know, 15 weeks, I think. And it was nice in a way to kind of step away and not feel the pressure to perform every day. To have a little mental break to kind of process some things and go from there. Today, I want to talk about something that came up in a conversation with a friend, and it's something that I think can help many of us get better at feeling different things. So I have a friend who is going through grief, and she's basically said, I don't want to feel this. I'm tired of feeling this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this anymore. And I reframed it and I said, okay, I understand that there are things that you don't want to feel, but what do you want to feel? And I think a lot of times we get caught in a trap where we will focus on the things that we don't want instead of the things that we do want. Focused on like the negative instead of the affirmative, if we can put it that way. So an example, a story I like to tell people, like, think about this. Say, for example, there are 100 different foods you could eat. Okay, so out of 100 foods, if I ask you, what do you want? And you say, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. And you list 97, or if you list 3 things that you don't want. I don't want pizza, I don't want a hamburger, and I don't want French fries. Okay, there's 3 things out of 100 possibilities. If these are things that you don't want, then there still remains 97 options to choose from. However, in the opposite, if I ask, if you tell me 3 things that you do want, maybe you say, I want watermelon, and I want cheesecake, and I want, who knows, ice cream or something. So 3 different types of dessert or something. And then that option, the 100 options reduce down to 3. Those 97 get thrown away because it doesn't even matter. So in a way, choosing the affirmative can really, really narrow down the options. So that's one reason I would say focusing on the affirmative can really help us in driving decision making. Another way is that when we focus on the negative, when we focus on the thing that we don't want, we're still paying attention to that thing. And so I think there have been studies done where I say, like, don't look at this, don't do that. And we look at that and we do that. So don't worry. It just means I'm going to worry more, or it's like, don't look at the gorilla, don't look at the whale. It's some type of thing where it's like, don't look at this. And then that's all that people can focus on. And so I think they were saying that a lot of times we overlook the don't and we just hear the noun, the verb that we're supposed to be ignoring. And so I think instead of saying like, don't worry or negating the thing that we don't want, we could reframe it and do it in the positive towards something that we do want. And I know I'm guilty of doing this a lot. When I say I'm guilty, I mean I do it as well, and I feel bad about it. So, for example, okay, here's a good one. So that I haven't been feeling very much in shape over the last year. Physically, I haven't been taking care of myself as much as I wanted to. I think I get stuck in worry, stuck in excitement, or thinking about things that are happening outside of my immediate environment and less about my exercise. I think I've worried about how exercising doesn't directly impact a lot of the stuff that I'm working on, and sometimes feel guilty that I would be taking time to work on myself. And so for various reasons. And if I say to myself that I want to lose, I want to lose weight, or I don't want to be so heavy, it's like, okay, what does it really mean? It's still that negative. I don't want to be so heavy, or I don't want to be so out of shape. Okay, if I don't want to be so out of shape, what do I actually want to be? I want to be in shape. I want to feel flexible. I want to feel energetic. I want to feel strong. Oh, okay. So flipping that, instead of I don't want to feel weak, putting into I want to feel strong. And then one thing that I do is then I say, okay, what's one thing that I could do to feel this way? So if I want to feel strong, what's one thing that I could do to feel strong? Oh, I could do a few push-ups. Okay. What's another thing that I could do to feel strong? I could go out for a walk every day. Okay, what's another thing I could do to feel strong? I could buy a pull-up bar. What's another thing that I could do to feel strong, et cetera, et cetera. Really just trying to go on very small things that I could do to make me feel that specific way, that specific emotion, or maybe even achieve that thing. So if it's like, I want to, have more flexibility, I could say feel more flexible or have more flexibility. What's one thing that I could do to have more flexibility? I could stretch every day. What's another thing that I could do to have more flexibility? I could pay more attention to my posture. What's another thing that I could do, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how much this will help you, but I know it's helped me a lot in my life. I've had a tendency throughout my life to tell people, hey, don't worry about this, or I don't want that, or I don't want this. And I've been trying to shift it so that I focus on the affirmative. And I think we can still say, I don't want that. And what I do want is this. So that balance, like, I don't want to work at a 9-to-5 job, or I don't want to have a job where I'm on call. I want to have a job where I can work a few hours very intensely per day and then relax. That's what I want. Or I want to have a job. I don't want to have a job that's in the same office in the same location every single day. What I do want to have is a job where I am moving from place to place every other week, for example. Or I don't want to feel angry anymore. I'm so tired of feeling angry. What I do want, I want to feel grateful, or I want to feel relaxed, or I want to feel loved, etc., etc. So many ways. I think it can be really powerful actually to say both. So when I talk about shifting towards the affirmative, it's not getting rid of the negative. It's just having a little bit more balance. And I think a lot of us can say, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. Fine, it's okay. And what do you want? So it strikes more of a balance. So it's talking about the things to get rid of and the things that we want to gain as a result. I don't want to I don't want to keep hosting shows by myself. I feel a little tired and a little bored of just talking into the camera, especially as politics has waned a little bit right now, and as it's getting colder and stuff outside. What I do want is to have great conversations with some friends, bring on new friends and gain that skill to have conversations with other people. There's so many things that we can do. Sometimes it's easier when friends ask us this question. So one thing that you could do is you can ask people questions around this. And if you want, you could specify a specific topic. So, you could say, okay, what don't you want to feel? Or, how do what do you want to feel? But you can also say, okay, when you think about work, what's one thing that you want to feel? And what's one thing that you don't want to feel? Or you could say, when you think about your physical health, what's one thing that you don't want to feel anymore? And what's one thing that you do want to feel? Oh, and you don't have to say, want to feel. You could say, okay, when you think about your financial situation, what's one thing that you don't want? What's one thing that you do want? When you think about romance, what's one thing that you don't want? What's something that you do want? When you think about so many different topics. I mean, when you think about the coronavirus, what's something that you don't want to have? When you think about the coronavirus, what's one thing that you do want to have? So what's one thing I don't want to have? I don't want to have the virus when I think about that. What's one thing that I do want to have? I want to have peace of mind knowing that I almost certainly don't have the virus. Okay, so what's one thing that I can do to have peace of mind that I almost certainly don't have the virus? Not go out and interact with other humans. Okay, fine. It's frustrated me at some times where I haven't had so much human interaction outside the house this year, in person. And at the same time, it has given me such a sense of relief that I don't have to worry about whether I've contracted it and whether I may spread it to other people in the household. Oh, nice. I don't know how many times I've sneezed on camera. Maybe this is the second time. Yeah, so I think it's this balance. And a lot of things that I talk about really aren't about getting rid of something completely. It's just about balancing it a little more. I talked, I think, in an episode before, more here, less there, meaning focusing more on my immediate environment and less on what's happening in the distance. Focusing more on the immediate time now and less what's happening in the past and the future. That doesn't mean to not focus on the past or the future, or to not focus on what's happening outside of my immediate surroundings. Just to shift the balance a little bit, because I think sometimes these balances get out of whack. Another one is more, more me, less you, or more me, less we. Focusing more on myself and less on other people, because I think we have a tendency to focus a lot on other people. And so just shifting the balance a little bit towards myself. And so in the same vein, this is kind of like focusing more on the affirmative and less on the negative. So it's focusing more on what we want instead of what we don't want. Again, it's not getting rid of what we don't want. I think knowing what we don't want can be very instructive and very helpful for us. And I think many of us can get caught in the trap where we focus only on what we don't want and we forget about the things that we want. How often have you asked somebody, hey, what do you want to go eat for dinner? And they go, oh, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want this. And you're like, okay, good. So where do you want to go? I don't know. Okay, well, that doesn't help me. I mean, it helps. It helps in knowing what are the options that are off the table, but I need to know, help me refine some of the other options. So I think it's a balance with almost everything in life, this balance between two things that we're doing. And I think often we fall into doing one of them more than the other. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe there are a lot of people out there who are very much so focus on what they want, more so than what they don't want. I think I just tend to meet people who have, and myself included, who balance more on the things that we don't want, who lean more in that direction than on the things that we do want. What's something that you really don't want right now? And how can you reframe that into something that you really do want right now? When you think about Christmas coming up, what's something that you really don't want to get? And what's something that you really do want to get? When you think about 2021 coming up, what's one thing that you really don't want to feel anymore? And what's one thing that you really do want to feel? I don't know if these exercises help you. They seem to help me a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. I'm feeling, again, a little bit bored talking into the camera. Just myself without having that external triggering event. I think it was much easier when I was paying much closer attention to politics, to have these monologues and conversations, because I think I was more in tune with what was going on in the outside world. I felt like I was clued into a current event. Right now, I feel a bit awkward and uncomfortable and almost disconnected from what's going on outside the house, because I haven't been so glued into the news or glued into Twitter or Facebook, or paying attention to really what's the cutting edge thing happening. So just a moment of reflection. So trying to take what I've been talking about, what don't I want anymore? I didn't want to pay so much attention to politics. I didn't want to have to be glued into the current cycle. But I also want to feel connected to what's going on with the zeitgeist. I think that's the correct term, with what's going on in the cultural pulse. And I'm noticing that in a monologue, I want to have a monologue that's engaging and seems relevant for people. At the same time, I don't want it to be too disconnected from what's going on. So look at, I can do it right there. So I don't want it to be too disconnected from what's happening on the day-to-day basis, and I want it to be connected to what's happening on the day-to-day basis. Very simple switch in the language. So I don't want it disconnected. It's almost a double negative. To I want it connected. And I think both statements are helpful, or both statements can help us in understanding what we actually do and don't want, and help us in making decisions going forward. So for me, if I'm going to talk about monologues and I want it to feel connected, because I don't like when it feels so disconnected from the day-to-day pulse, then I can structure my topics, again, more focused on current events, and have that one current event as the main topic that's flowing through the conversation. What's another thing I can do to make sure that these podcasts in general feel more connected? I can bring in someone else who can help remind me and bring me back on topic to something that is more currently relative to people, or relevant. What's another thing that I can do to make it feel more connected to what's going on in the world? I could use videos or clips in the show, and I don't want to have a lot of a huge editing process. What is not having? So I don't want a huge editing process. What that also means is I want to have a very quick, smooth publication process that doesn't require a lot of editing. Okay. So I want something that is very quick for me to record and then post and then go on to something else. So this is me just kind of rambling and playing with this concept of seeing something that we're trying to negate and then trying to flip it into something that is the affirmative, to affirm and to keep that balance. For example, I'm tired of feeling so tired in the morning. Well, I don't want to feel tired in the morning. I do want to feel refreshed in the morning. Okay, what's one thing that I could do to feel refreshed in the morning? I could go to bed earlier. I don't want to go to bed earlier. I do want to feel refreshed in the morning. So it's this balance. Okay, what's another thing that I could do to feel refreshed in the morning? I could slow down at night. Instead of using my phone and moving my fingers really fast, I could take a few hours before I go to bed, even if I stay up later, and slow down so I could feel more refreshed in the morning. Little things like this. And I think it's a lot just playing with different concepts, not necessarily having the answer, but really just, again, trying to play. I guess I could do this, I don't want to feel tired in the morning. And then I could say, well, then I won't stay up so late, but I want to stay up late, so it's hard. So this could maybe bleed into another concept that I talk about, which is just this idea of most of the time we're at conflict and we want two different things, or we don't want two different things at the same time. I think often it's that we want two different things at the same time. And, for example, I think it's best explained through an example. Somebody says, "Oh, would you like to go out to dinner tonight?" and maybe we want to stay in. We're feeling a little tired, so we want to stay in. This person says, do you want to go out for dinner tonight? And we say, I do, but I'm going to stay home. Or we say, no, I'm going to stay home tonight. Maybe we don't even say no because we're afraid to say no to the person. Maybe we don't even answer it because we're really afraid to say no because we really want to stay home. But most of the time, I think the reality is that we do want to go out with the person and we do want to stay home. And maybe we just want to stay home a little more than we want to go out. But it's not that we don't want to go out. It's that we do want to go out with this person and we want to stay home. So shifting that conversation, and the response from, I do want to go out tonight with you, but I want to stay home, to I do want to go out with you and I want to stay home. And this time I'm going to stay home. So I think that one lands a little better for the other person, but also for ourselves, because we're being honest with ourselves that we do want both of them. And sometimes we just have to make a choice. And sometimes it's a really hard choice, and we just almost flip a coin in our heads and say, okay, well, we're going to stay home today. Or we're going to go out today. I do want to go to bed early because I do want to wake up feeling refreshed, and I do want to go see that movie with my friends because they're in town and I haven't seen them in a very long time and we've been stuck in a pandemic. Okay, I want both of them. I'm going to go to the movie tonight. Okay, but I still want to feel refreshed in the morning, so I am going to slow down after the movie and really try to take it slow and transition very well into sleep. Oh, okay. So the combination and really playing with the things that we don't want, but I think for me, again, playing more with the things that we do want. And really, I find that helps me guide my actions and my decisions. Because then I have something that I'm aiming for instead of something I'm aiming away from, Another way to look at it, maybe hunting's not the best example, but if you're standing there with something and you're throwing a ball at a target, you have to have a target to hit. If you're trying to throw a ball and not hit something, if you look at it, you got 360 degrees around you and you got up and down. There's a lot. If you're trying to not hit a specific thing, you can throw it really anywhere. It doesn't give you that focus or that aim most of the time. Unless you're surrounded 360 degrees by something and then there's only that one gap. But even then, you're aiming for the gap. You're not aiming for the other things. I don't know if that makes sense. I think there is something about going towards the affirmative that allows us to align our focus, whereas avoiding the negative doesn't. So I think it's a balance between these two things. And as I've said, I think many of us have the tendency to focus more on avoiding things that we don't want instead of going after the things that we do want. And I hope this conversation was helpful for you. It's helped me remember how much I want to pay attention to the affirmative, and just how it's a simple little language trick sometimes to flip something that's in the negative to the affirmative to help me focus my attention a little more. So on that note, I want to continue this call, and I also want to end the call. I don't want to end it early, and I also don't want to force it to those are two negatives. I don't want to force it to go longer than it should. So let's flip that. I don't want to end early. I want it to end when it should end, and I don't want to force it to go longer. I also want to be respectful of your time. Voila. So I think it's a balance of these two, and hopefully I'm going to have a few more people on the show, and because I want to have a more lively discussion, and I want to tie this a little more to current events throughout this week to see how that's going. So curious, the monologue will be hopefully a little more tied to current events, and the interviews, conversations, I hope will bring a little more interactivity to these podcasts. So thank you for joining in. I hope this helped a bit. I hope if it didn't, you at least enjoyed the hair or the voice. And yeah. All right. Hope you take care, and I feel more refreshed tomorrow morning. Ciao, y'all.